Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So let's try solving the multiple choice questions for prelims 2020 and question number 1. In the context of India, which of the following factors is our contributor to reducing the risk of currency crisis? So herein we have to understand what do we mean by currency crisis in order to answer this question. But let's try reading the question in its entirety, and then onwards we'll be looking at what can be the plausible way to solve this question. Number 1. The foreign currency earning of India's IT sector. So question is about the factors that can reduce the risk of currency crisis, and statement number 1 is saying that the foreign currency earning of India's IT sector can lead to a reduction in the risk of currency crisis. Is it so? Second is increasing the government expenditure. Third is remittances from the Indians abroad. And select the correct answer. Options are either way obvious, 1 only, 1 and 3, 2 only, or all of these. Now herein, it's a very simple question, really easy, not factual, and it's the beauty of UPSC exam that these questions are not factual, unlike the test series ones. So what do we mean by the currency crisis here? Basically, crisis of currency can happen if and only if we do not have a control over it. And we know domestic currency or rupee is something over which RBI has a full control. So basically, whenever we are talking about currency crisis, it means we are talking about the foreign exchange reserve, because we do not have control over the foreign currency. So which of the factors can lead to reduction in the risk of currency crisis or can lead to accumulation of the foreign exchange reserve? That's it. So कौन से factor हैं जिनसे हमें foreign exchange reserve मिलेगा? That would be our answer. So number 1, the foreign currency earning of India's IT sector, absolutely correct. This is quite self-explanatory. Categorically, they have written it's the foreign currency earning. Doesn't matter from IT sector or from whichever sector it is. Second, increasing the government expenditure. Let's hold this option for now. Third is the remittances from Indians abroad. So again, it's the remittances, and remittances would be in the foreign currency. So yes, it again would be leading to accumulation of foreign reserve or the reduction in the risk of a currency crisis. Alright, now we are confused about statement number 2. Now herein, how would increasing the government expenditure would be having anything to do with the currency crisis? Government would be undertaking expenditure in the rupee terms, and here we are talking about the foreign currency. So it has nothing to do with the foreign currency per se. So that makes us say that statement number 2 is not correct. So answer here becomes B, that is 1 and 3. It's really simple, and if you haven't gotten over it, then do go through it once again. I do not think it needs any further explanation. So we have gotten our answer. Let's get on to the next question, which is, which one of the following statements correctly describes the meaning of legal tender money? Very simple. One rule regarding economics question is, even if you have no idea what the question is about, still read all the options carefully. Options reading per se give a slight hint what exactly would be the answer. So let's read the options now. Number 1, the money which is tendered in court of law to defray the fee of legal cases. Absolutely not. It's so ridiculous. B is the money which is a creditor is under compulsion to accept in the settlement of his claims. So this is the right answer. That yes, legal tender money is a money which a creditor, or not just the creditor, any individual is under compulsion to accept in the settlement of his claim. If a currency is a legal tender money, then the person cannot refuse to accept that very currency. Today you go to any shopkeeper and you offer him ₹10 note and ask him to give you any cookie. The shopkeeper wouldn't be saying that he or she will not be accepting the ₹10. No, it's a legal tender money, so one person has to accept it, and this is what's been written in option number 2, that the money which a creditor is under compulsion to accept in settlement of his claims. Option number C and D is just to make us confused, that bank money in the form of checks, drafts, bill of exchange, etc. And the last is the metallic money in circulation in a country. We really do not need to even understand what the statement number C and D is about, because we have gotten our answer and that's it. And either way, this is how we'll be arriving at the right answer in the examination hall, because we cannot know everything. So if you've gotten an answer, let's get on to the next question. So here lies the explanation, which I'll be just reading now. Legal tender is any official medium of payment recognized by law that can be used to extinguish a public or private debt or meet a financial obligation. Alright, a creditor is obliged under compulsion. One has to accept legal tender towards repayment of a debt. Legal tender can only be issued by the national body that is authorized to do so. तो हम लोग में कोई भी घर में अपना legal tender नहीं issue कर सकता है. That would not be something that creditor would be under obligation to accept. That money has to be issued by an authority, and that too the one who has gotten the authorization from the government. That's it. RBI is that authority in case of India, that I'm sure we all know. So let's look at question number 3, which is consider the following statements. What are these? Number 1. The Reserve Bank of India manages and services Government of India security but not any state government securities. Alright. And the second is treasury bills are issued by the Government of India and there are no treasury bills issued by the state governments. Alright. Last is treasury bills are issued at a discount from the par value. So which of the statements given above are correct? Now herein, if you are a sincere UPSC aspirant, then there need not to be any doubt in case of statement numbers 1st and 3rd, because it's about the treasury bill and it's about the function of the Reserve Bank of India. Doubt can definitely be in case of statement number 2nd, but we'll be looking at the 1st and 3rd now. So first is that Reserve Bank of India manages and services the Government of India securities but not any state government securities. Now this is not true, and this is pure common sense based thing, because we do not have any state based bank. We all have just one bank, central bank, that is the Reserve Bank of India. Had it been the case that even all 29 states are also having their separate banks, and this might have been true then, but right now we're just having one central government, so that very central government would be needing to manage the securities on everything of the Government of India plus the government of the states. So that makes us say that statement number 1 is not correct, because Reserve Bank of India manages and services Government of India securities plus the state government securities. This is something that we just have to memorize now, because I believe question can be repeated in a slightly different format, of course. And statement number 3 is that treasury bills are issued at a discount from the par value. So par value means the face value, the value written over the security. Let's say you have gotten the paper, it's called the treasury bill, and it's been written that it's of 100 rupee. So 100 rupees its par value. But these are issued at a discount. So let's say you are being told to buy it at rupees 90, and at the time of maturity you would be getting rupees 100. So that's how it was issued at a discounted price. That's what we're calling it as the offer issued at a discount from the par value. Very, very simple. Now this is indeed true, and we just have to know the factual details about the treasury bill, and I'm sure if you're a serious UPSC aspirant, then you must have read about it. Now statement number 2 is slightly difficult, because most of the test series and their discussion onto this, that they are issued by the Government of India, that's it. But they are not issued by the state government. This indeed is true. And what is our source of this? Again, the standard one, the Ramesh Singh. I am sure we all have read that very book, and it's been categorically written over there that the treasury bills are issued only by the central government, and central government means Government of India, and that by default becomes that they are not issued by the state government. So that's it. Statement number 2 is difficult for some of us, because I believe most of us just do not read the standard books, and we just end up solving a lot of test series, and test series are not a substitute to reading the books. That's of course my personal opinion, but either way this is not a difficult question, because it's been given right there in the standard books. Had it not been there, then it would have been a difficult question, but right now it's in a standard book, so that makes us say that it's an easy one. So we have gotten our answer. But because treasury bills are important, so let's go through the details of them now. It's going to be really, really boring for us, but then it's important, so we just have to go through it. The Reserve Bank of India manages public debt and issues Indian currency denominated loans on behalf of the central and the state governments under the powers derived from the Reserve Bank of India Act. The RBI is the debt manager for both the central government and the state governments. RBI manages the debt of state governments on the basis of the separate agreements. So that is what the statement number 1 was asking us to think over. So you have gotten the answer that RBI is the debt manager of both the central as well as the state governments. Further, on to treasury bills now. It's important. Treasury bills or T-bills, which are money market instruments, very, very important. What are money market instruments? The one which are issued for less than 1 year of time span. So they are the money market instrument. They are short-term debt instrument issued by the government of India and are presently issued in 3 tenors: 91, 182, 364. They used to be issued for 14 days as well, but it's been discontinued now. So right now they are issued just in 91 days, 182 days and 364 days. That's it. Treasury bills are zero coupon securities and pay no interest. What do we mean by this? So it simply means that they are issued at a discounted price at par value. So as I've already explained, let's say the face value or the par value is rupees 100 and you are being told to pay just 98.20. So that's how discount is to the tune of 1.80 rupees, and at the time of redemption you would be getting entire rupee 100. So that's how they are the zero coupon securities. The return to the investor is the difference between the maturity value, that is rupees 100, and the one that's been paid at the time of issuance, that is 98.20. So that's how we got our answer. So I am sure this thing is being clear now, and if it hasn't, then do go through this once again, because we are to cover some 4 questions, so I would need to go a little faster here. So bear with me, because otherwise they are really, really simple, I believe. So last question is this: which one of the following is not the most likely measure the government or the RBI takes to stop the slide of Indian rupee? So we'll proceed slowly here because it's a really, really wonderful question. So question is, which one of the following is not the most likely measure the government or RBI takes to stop the slide of Indian rupee? So what do we mean by slide of Indian rupee? Sliding means going down. That means weakening of something, and that means depreciation of something. So for answering this question, number 1, we have to know what do we mean by slide of Indian rupee. So it means depreciation or weakening of the Indian rupee. Now herein, let's try reading all the options first, then we'll think about what can be the possible way of solving this question. But let's try reading it first. Number 1, curbing imports of non-essential goods and promoting exports. Alright. Second, encouraging Indian borrowers to issue rupee-denominated masala bonds. Alright. C is easing conditions relating to external commercial borrowings. Alright. Last is following an expansionary monetary policy. Alright. Now, let's assume that you have no idea what this question is, but at least इतना तो समझना पड़ेगा कि depreciation का बात हो रहा है. But otherwise we're finding it difficult to understand the options. Now I believe any serious UPSC aspirant must have read about the expansionary monetary policy and the contractionary monetary policy. So from all the 4 options, at least option number D is something that you must have heard of before. So try apply this option first. So it says following an expansionary monetary policy. Question is, which one of the following is not the most likely measure the government or the RBI takes to stop the slide of Indian rupee? करेंसी depreciation को हमें रोकना है, तो इसमें से कौन सा ऐसा measure है जो government नहीं लेगी? So if let's say government is opting for expansionary monetary policy, it means government is supplying money in the economy. तो अगर रुपी का money supply बढ़ेगा economy से में, तो depreciation तो और ज़्यादा होगा. I'm sure we know what do we mean by depreciation. It's pure demand and supply thing. More is the supply of money in the economy, lesser would be its value. So more it would be depreciated. It's a pure demand and supply thing. So we really are not supposed to increasing the supply of the money. But here in option number D, we are increasing the money supply. That means we are making sure that rupee is further depreciating. So this cannot be the option that government of India would be taking if it has to stop the depreciation of money, right? So either way we have gotten our answer, and herein we are not even need to make us understand what do we mean by this option number 1, these Indian borrowers and the masala bond, these are external commercial borrowings. No, we have gotten an answer and that's it. But either way, because it's been asked in the UPSC, So we should be thorough with all the options now. So basically, curbing of imports of non-essential goods and promoting exports. So this would give us the foreign exchange, and this would in fact be stopping the depreciation of the rupee. And second is the masala bond. Now it's really important, and I have made a separate video onto the masala bonds because question can be asked directly or indirectly, and we've already seen the indirect version of it. So do at least either my video or any of the source that you are following, do go through it. Keep a complete hold over masala bond. I'm not gonna explain it here because it's gonna take a lot of our time, and either way I have made a separate video on this. So I'll be providing the link of that in the video in the description box, so do go through it if you don't know what is the masala bonds. And last is easing conditions relating to the external commercial borrowing. So external means outside of India. Commercial means not by the government but by a private entity. So either way, even if a private entity is borrowing the currency from outside India, it would be in the dollar denomination. So dollar would be coming to India. It means foreign exchange would be coming to India. It means it would be reducing the depreciation of the rupee. So that's how all the options I have explained, and either way we've gotten the answer, which is D. So I'm sure this thing is clear now. Answer is D, and if it hasn't, then do let me know in the comment section and we'll explain that thing once again. So all those questions were from 2018 prelims exam, and as we can clearly see, very analytic questions those were. So you need to be very thorough with the concepts, and that's the only way out to clear the prelims exam. Now lastly, I've gotten the feedback that I should be incorporating some sort of motivational thing in my videos. So I even watched some of the videos on YouTube, and I found out that yes, YouTubers do incorporate some motivational things. So let's try doing it now. So I have chosen this quote which I really like, which is this: that discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. This is my personal favorite. So discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want the most. So what do we mean by this? So let's say you are in a diet and you decide to eat a piece of chocolate. Obviously, one piece of chocolate doesn't immediately translate to gaining weight, but it sets a precedent that over the long term does change your body in such a way that it reflects your preferences for what you want now, not what you want most. So each time you make a choice that favors instant gratification, your behavior signals that you have weak motivators. And if your reasons why were strong enough, you would be less likely to go with what you want now. And this is so true for UPSC. If our reasons why for UPSC are not strong enough, we are really likely to deviate a lot. And it happens with most of us. So just towards the end, to achieve your long-term goals, make sure that the satisfaction that you get from what you want most is always much stronger than the satisfaction that you can get from what you want now. So that's really important, especially for UPSC aspirants. So with this, we'll be ending the discussion. It's been of 18 minutes. So thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.